Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and joining me in a hotel room for the final time for a while, his name is Tyler Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I feel like you may have just jinxed us because it is pouring rain outside here in Atlanta, and there's a chance we don't take off today.
I genuinely had not.
I know you had not, and now I feel like maybe you've jinxed us.
I'd not considered that.
Yeah.
All right, so the World Cup Comedy Tour is over. Mm-hmm. Normal Total Soccer Show service will resume starting next Monday. We'll be back in studio in Richmond, just the two of us previewing the Premier League. But we have a final show on the road. We do. So we have 3 listener questions to answer.
Recorded on an ironing board.
Don't give away our secret. You've got to.
Hey man,
you got to make do where you can.
That's right? How it works.
So last night we were at the MLS All-Star Game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It was MLS All-Stars 1, Juventus 1. I want to talk a little bit about that first. That stadium. Mm-hmm. I understand what $1 billion can buy you now. That is a stadium.
So I asked you this a little bit as we were walking into it. Is there anything like that in England? Like, is New Wembley as impressive, do you think?
It's not as impressive.
Wow.
I mean, it's an impressive stadium, but there's something technologically advanced about that stadium.
Fired
right?
at England.
The giant, this weird, what's the word? Curved screen at the top. Because our seats, we couldn't quite see it. But you had to step forward a little bit and look up, and you suddenly... My jaw dropped. Yeah. And I think...
it literally did. His mouth opened.
It was George Qureishi's dad, Farouk, who was like, hey, go see that. And I stepped... And he was like... I think he could see my face. And as soon as he saw my eyes light up, he was like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And then we were talking to some Atlanta fans about the roof. Yeah. The roof opens in like 10 minutes, 18 minutes, something like that. It's definitely an impressive stadium. And it certainly keeps the noise in. Because it was... loud, despite maybe not necessarily being full.
Yeah, the official attendance was like 72,000, but we saw quite a few empty seats, right? We did. And like you said...
Usually in the area, or like specifically in the area, usually allocated for rich people.
That's true, right? I think that's exactly what happened. So obviously a lot of Atlanta players started, right? Mm-hmm. Like Martinez started, Usain started, Almiron started. They got the biggest cheers. Yep. And I think we got just a little taste of what the atmosphere would be like for an actual Atlanta United Major League Soccer game. But from what I understand, we didn't get the full thing.
We did not. Apparently, like what we got was maybe 60%. Yeah. Then you go, 99% is a normal game, and then like 101% is a normal game against Orlando. That's what I've learned. That's what I've learned.
I didn't realize the depth of the rivalry.
Nor did I.
Until this week. I think I'd bring ear protectors if we come back for a proper game.
I would not let you wear ear protectors to a game. That would be unacceptable.
Not quick. You think it'd ruin our cred?
You are English, right? I'm so confused by this. I feel like you've just totally thrown that away.
Can we talk about the game a little bit?
I suppose.
So it finished 1-1.
It seems fitting that that's secondary to our larger conversation.
I mean, that's kind of what the MLS All-Star Game is about, right? It's not really about the game.
No, I think the telling moment for me was in the first half. I can't remember if it was Martinez who was in, or Almiron. I think it was Almiron is in. Very much offside. It continues to dribble and then scores on Chesney, and Chesney just sort of like laughs and puts his hands in the air as though it's been a goal.
And no yellow card for Martinez.
Yeah, that's indicative of preseason friendly.
I mean, you could also say the All-Stars equaliser, where Martinez scores. It was kind of a weird goal, right? Yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit maybe later. But Barzali and Chesney, they both kind of laughed after it happened, which I think says everything you need to know about the game. But that's not a criticism. That's what made the All-Star Game fun for me. There was an air of, let's try some stuff and have some fun. Yeah. I mean, I think it was somewhat muted, the response to the All-Star Game, specifically because it was such a weekend Juve side. And that's not to say that, that means they're, does that bring the quality of MLS into question? It's just people wanted to see Higuain. He's maybe not there anymore. They wanted to see Dybala. They wanted to see Ronaldo. So you don't get some of those stars. Yeah. You did get a strong midfield of Emre Can, Sami Khedira, and Miralem Pjanic. So you still got some star power, just maybe not that full extent star power. It's kind of weird, right? It's like the senior midfield and not senior anywhere else. Pretty much. Left back. I think we got Alexandro, but we're struggling after that, basically. Yep. You got any other memories from the game before we get to listener questions? No, just that it was a wonderful time. It was good hanging out with George and his father, Stanley Niazamba. Also very fun to hang out with, former Richmond kicker, former Columbus crew. Yeah, that was cool for us, right? Yeah. To meet a former Kickers player. All right, so let's get to listener questions. First question today comes from Billy Height. Billy Height wants to know, in the MLS All-Star Game, we're back, Did Brad Guzan miss the first goal by Favili because he was concentrating too much on a mid-game interview? And Billy says, Taylor, yes or no? No lawyer answers, please. Are you famous for lawyer answers?
I don't know what that means. I guess maybe equivocating. I'm not sure. Yeah. Then fine, no.
No. Okay. So can we set the scene for people? There was a moment in the 30 seconds to a minute before the goal where Brad Guzan is playing in goal in the All-Star game and being interviewed by Taylor Twellman. Right? They're asking him about what he does on the field, how things work, and you hear Guzan shouting at his teammates.
They're kind of interviewing him. It didn't really work that well.
No, you weren't a fan?
It's a cool. Well, I mean, it's a cool idea in theory. It's the Goldblum line from Jurassic Park. Like your TV producers were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. And it is the case that a goalkeeper, I think the idea is, it's a goalkeeper. He's just standing back there. He's got nothing else to do. Why doesn't he chat with us? That was the thing that I actually really enjoyed about it, was seeing how much Brad Guzan is moving and shifting and talking and communicating. And
sometimes he couldn't talk properly because he was out of breath because there's so much yelling from the back and because you are constantly moving fairly quickly. It's like you said, it's a reminder that goalkeepers don't just stand still.
Yes. It was sort of surreal as well, because it was like cutting to Brad Guzan on the field talking into a microphone was, I mean, obviously not like holding a mic in his hand or anything like that, but it was still sort of odd to just see that it's not a thing you expect to see in the middle of a soccer game.
He did also swear.
He did.
Definitely, right? He swore on ESPN.
Yeah.
Which I think, if nothing else, we'll talk about the goal. But,
he did like say it quietly, so the mics didn't quite pick it up, but it's there.
I also sort of love that he didn't apologise for swearing. He just apologised for yelling, which I think was kind of cool.
He also still has that West Mids accent, that faint West Mids accent.
He does, very strange. He's got a bit of a Brad Friedel, half American, half English
sure does.
Thing going on. I kind of love it. Might be where I end up, but in the reverse direction.
It was good to hear. It's nice to hear how Brad Guzan sounds in the middle of a game. But to go back to the question, no, I don't think that it played a part. He's talking, they end the interview, maybe 10, 15 seconds go by, then the goal happens.
Yeah, and he's definitely not distracted in the moment, right?
Yeah, because 10 to 15 seconds might not sound like much, but it's a lot. It's enough time for him to get back into position, be aware of what's going on. And obviously, as you already said, he's running, he's running commentary with the team. He's telling people, drive. He's play at home. I think he yells at one point when he wants the ball back. Come home. Yeah, there it is. So I think he was more than capable.
Like to an estranged child.
Yes, perfect. That's exactly what the ball was in that situation. So I think if it had happened in the middle of that interview, yes, it was him being distracted, because I imagine it takes away 20% focus from what you're trying to do. But as soon as that interview ends, I think he's back at 100.
I think if we're really going to talk about the goal, there was I think it was Pereira. If we must. Pereira had way too much space to cross. I think Taylor Twellman called this out. I like Taylor Twellman's analysis. Carlos Vela, who was on the right, had sort of drifted in field. He'd left Murillo one-on-one with Pereira, and then there was an overlap, so Murillo was 1v2, and he couldn't close the ball down, so there was way too much space for him to cross. But again, that's what happens in an All-Star game. Right? It's very fast and loose and fun, and that's what you want from an All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get a defensive system in place in like 4 days with a bunch of different players, so knowing exactly who needs to step and when is always going to be a challenge.
And if we're going to look at this as an experiment in broadcasting, I honestly think Brad Guzan swearing might be the reason that they never do this again, because it's a reminder that soccer players, if they're even half focused on the game, there's going to be some swearing to emphasize their point to get across to teammates, and there's no way they're going to be able to broadcast that.
Yeah. I think if they ever did it again, I'm with you. I think if they ever did it again, it would be a bench player. Like maybe like the third string goalkeeper. We've got him mic'd up, but then maybe that's not quite as marketable, but I still think
because it would be a lot of grumbling, like I could do better than that.
Well, I like to
put me in, coach.
I like to think if you're the third string goalkeeper, you know you're the third string goalkeeper. So that maybe that's where they used it again, because I mean, I joke about the Goldblum thing because it's an interesting idea. It's something that I hadn't seen before, and I was sort of like, okay. I mean, it comes from the NFL school of miking up the quarterback and being able to hear what they're saying and maybe being able to interview them in the moment. But it also is a strange thing because, number one, surveillance. We'll get more on that later. They can be, miking you at any time. But also, number two, it does just distract a little bit from the game. And I imagine that in a normal regular season or playoff or what have you game, that manager is maybe not going to let that go.
So the other two questions we have today are not All-Star related. Do you have anything else All-Star-ish we want to talk about? Like maybe Joseph Martinez?
I mean, I want to talk about Joseph Martinez.
Let's do it.
He and Miguel Almiron, okay, I get it, Atlanta fans. I get it. why you're very excited about these two
Yeah.
players.
They're legit top tier European players.
They absolutely
right?
are. I mean, that front line was on several occasions because you've got Carlos Vela in there, you had Piatti in there, you've got serious talent driving at you if you're that Juve defense.
Giovinco subbed in.
He sure did.
That's a reminder. A reminder of what happened. And just if you didn't see this, basically the All-Star Game works in 30-minute blocks, right? So most players get about 30 minutes before they're replaced by another All-Star. So that's how it worked.
And Martinez battles, Almiron tries stuff to use the radio edit. And I think
the non-Brad Guzan edit.
Yeah, true. And I found myself definitely drawn to watching them more than any other players on the field. That said, I did have a moment of like, come on, Atlanta United fans. Like, Almiron gets the ball, he turns, I think he tries to play Martinez in, but Martinez has made a different run. He plays the ball, goes up for a goal kick, and the whole crowd was like, ooh! And then it went out of bounds, and you heard the collective awe. And it's just like, that ball was never on, folks.
So I love this. It was fun for Atlanta fans, I imagine, to watch their heroes without the sort of nervous tension that you get when it's an actual league game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just enjoy Almiron's dribbling and all the things that Martinez does, but with no pressure on them. You just enjoy watching them enjoy themselves.
Exactly.
So, right? And I think, to the goal, Piatti, great header back across goal, because that play was basically dead, right? I think Szczesny had made the save. That was going to go out of bounds.
Shot, Szczesny save.
Yeah,
looks like it's going out.
I'm going to say he wasn't going for goal. He was lifting it to the far post for Joseph Martinez.
I think he was doing the same thing. And Martinez had done that previously. The ball comes in, and it looks like he's heading it back down. I think to Vela. I think he's aiming to get it to Vela. Vela gets the shot off. And I think you're right. Piatti then is trying to keep the play alive. Maybe if it goes in the goal, he's fine with it. But maybe also if he gets the assist, he's fine with that too.
Okay, one final thing I'd like to ask you about. On the All-Star Game, this was a conversation with some of the people we were with. Is it a concern that there weren't that many Americans on the MLS All-Star team?
No. I mean, I'm not, because I think you've got like 3 Americans in the starting 11. That's fine. That's more than you get English players at Arsenal. So, I mean, I think it's also the case that it's an all-star game. So it comes down to fan vote and who the coach wants. And I mean, it's also a league where you've got a lot of imported talent to, increase the skill level and overall ability of the league and the excitement therein. So no, I think it makes total sense to have a wider variety of players than just 11 Americans.
Okay. Well, so we talked about the All-Star Game. If you'd like to hear about the homegrown game, then you should go and find our other show, the Top Draw Soccer Show, where we have an interview with Bobby Warshaw, who was doing the colour commentary on the homegrown game. He gets kind of detailed on various young talented players
he sure does.
Game. Before we move on to more listener questions, today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. You mentioned earlier that Brad Guzan was being surveilled. It is worth being aware that not everything you do online is private and secure.
Not at all, man. It's really it is genuinely starting to creep me out that there's stuff where, like, I forget, I think I told this story to you or maybe on air, that I think my wife and I were like trying to figure out the name of the Robb Stark actor from Game of Thrones. And we were just having a conversation. He's in a Netflix movie with Gillian Jacobs that she was watching. And I was like, I can't remember his name. I know he's Rob from Game of Thrones. Let me look. And I hit in like R on my on Safari, and it came up as Rob from Game of Thrones actor. And I was like, I did not tell you to do that. And that was a massively good guess that almost seems like maybe my mic was on. My mic supposedly isn't, but that kind of creeped me out a little bit.
But so it's kind of okay that your phone knows that because it's just between you and your phone.
Except,
but the thing worth being aware of is if any sort of sneaky third party is attempting to hack you from it. I'll say this: if someone's trying to hack you, they're not hacking you to help your Google searches. They're after more valuable things than that. And if you use a virtual private network...
I mean, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but I would add, I mean, your browsing history is stored. It can be sold. It can be used. I mean, as much as I like to believe that our internet providers are, benevolent, lovely companies, that sponsorship money is now gone. I'm reluctant to put my faith in giant mega corporations.
That's fair. All right.
But I am happy to put my faith in ExpressVPN.
So ExpressVPN is a virtual private network. You can protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/Total Soccer Show. That's expressvpn.com/Total Soccer Show for 3 months free with a 1-year package.
Visit expressvpn.com/Total Soccer Show to learn more. And thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring the Total Soccer Show and helping keep our browsing history and all of the stuff we do secure. People don't need to know what that I'm Googling Joseph Martinez shirtless. That's not a thing that people need to know.
I mean, you shouldn't have said it on a podcast.
Yeah. Ezekiel Barco is probably searching some teammates. And we'll leave it at that.
Matt Koss gives us our next question. Matt Koss wants to know, if FIFA allowed Jill Ellis to add one US men's national team player to her US women's national team for the 2019 World Cup, who should she take and why? So which men's national team player would you add to the women's national team for the 2019 World Cup?
Yes. So Daryl read this question out to me as we were preparing to record because I hadn't seen the questions.
You've had minutes to prepare. What are you complaining about?
I'm mostly saying this because this is my immediate response was Weston McKennie.
Mine too.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just because he's my favourite player.
I have a reason why.
On as many national teams as possible.
I'm explaining this because this wasn't a thing that I've been thinking about over 5 minutes. My immediate response was Weston McKennie because I wanted him to learn what it feels like to be a champion. And I'm not really joking.
I think McKennie's a good answer also because there's classically been the US women's national team problem of us not quite having a defensive midfielder all the time, right?
Yeah.
We seem to have a solution.
Julie Ertz would like a word with you.
Right, no, I think we have a solution right now where Julie Ertz is...
Even if maybe her teammates don't know who she is.
She's good Chicago Red Stars, but she's essentially playing out of position, right? Because she's a centre... I mean, I like her most as a centre-back, but she's doing a job and doing it well at central defensive midfield. If we could get Weston McKennie in and he can play centre defensive midfield, we can reform the Becky Sauber and Julie Ertz World Cup winning centre back partnership.
Yeah. I mean that would be fine with me.
I love that we both had the same answer.
We do, but I want to go back to my reasoning for it for a second because it really wasn't a joke. It was also the case that like the national teams he's been playing for, the U.S. national senior teams, have all been post failure to qualify for the World Cup, and he has been sort of like become one of the more senior figures, strangely enough. And it seems like because of where he plays, the level he plays at, and just sort of what he is within that team, he kind of seems like he's become a leader.
Yeah.
But I want him to see what it's like to be with a proven group of winners to understand like, oh, there's a lot more I've got to do to get to that level.
Yeah, and he's not winning a championship with Schalke, right?
No.
Just historically, that's not happening.
Probably not. No, it's been a while.
The other thing is, it seems to me there's usually a good atmosphere within the US women's national team camp. And if we were actually to do this, bringing in one random dude could potentially upset a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But for me, Weston McKennie seems to have that smiley face, that sense of fun, that playfulness. Yeah. I think he's maybe got the best chance of anyone of fitting in with the US women's national team group.
There we go.
Fair? Or at least... overcoming the awkwardness and ingratiating himself to the US women's national team group. I think of this as, we're both fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah. There's that whole story where after the first season, FX said, hey, you guys that no one's ever heard of, we love your show, but we need a famous person. Danny DeVito's going to join your show. And that could have been a disaster, right? Yeah. But Danny DeVito was really friendly and fun.
He's a lovable weirdo.
He's a lovable weirdo, and everybody got along with him, and now we have the show that we love. Weston McKennie is that lovable weirdo. He's the Danny DeVito of co-ed soccer.
You've walked yourself into a corner here, haven't you?
Why is that?
I felt like that pause wasn't like, he's the Danny DeVito of, oh boy, what have I done here?
Well, because it's not a regular situation for a men's player to go into the women's
Not so much, no. But I will say Danny DeVito is a national treasure, and we should all remember that. Treasure. And so too is Weston McKennie.
There we go. Two national treasures.
Even though I still don't pronounce his last name properly. Yes.
You ready for one more question?
Let's do it.
Okay, final question comes from Shay Canaday. Shay Canaday wants to know, how would you, Taylor Rockwell, play Usain Bolt? Ooh. So for those who don't know, I'm giving Taylor time to think here. Usain Bolt is maybe the greatest sprinter of all time, right? Yeah. He has the best name for a sprinter of all time. He really is serious about wanting to play soccer, right? And from what I've seen, he's not a terrible soccer player. He's but he's not professional level in terms of technique. And from what I understand, in terms of what's the word, like game sense. You know what I'm saying? Just because he doesn't have the experience, he's been mostly sprinting.
Yeah, I mean, my honest answer is I wouldn't. But I think that is the case.
But he has the pace, right? So I think Shay's question is essentially, how do you use his literally world-class, elite, best in the world pace?
I would change his name. That is my answer. I would change his name and have him, I don't know, make the squad under an assumed identity or something.
Oh,
because
sort of like when J.K. Rowling released that book under a different name. Yeah.
Exactly the exact same idea. It's more so that like when you hear Usain Bolt, as you said, it's just like, oh, he's got that pace. Oh, he's so fast. Oh, he's so quick. Yeah. And he is, obviously, but it becomes about like, how do you utilize that pace? So you got Usain Bolt in there. Are you wasting his talents? Why is he doing this? He's a world-class runner. And in reality, if you've got him in there, change that name. Nobody knows who he is. Suddenly,
what would you change his name to?
Usain Holt? I don't know.
You got to try it. I'd call him like Johnny Slow.
Johnny Slow.
So no one suspects anything.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. But it allows you, like on a serious level, it allows you to develop him a bit more, to develop those skills. I've seen him play with Dortmund. He's fine, but his technical ability certainly not up to snuff. Even if Alexis from the Cooligans believes that if you just run a whole bunch, you can play in the Premier League. I don't think that's the case. So I think you work on his foot skills, but then also, to your point, you bring him in like in the 75th minute when the defense is tired. If you're a high press team and you've kind of worn the opposition down, in comes Usain Holt to go at people, or Johnny Slow, to go at that defense, cause problems. And worth noting, he is not short, so he's also going to be a threat from set pieces.
What about position-wise? Where would you play? I know it's hard to say, right? For example, winger seems like an easy, obvious answer because you think he's pace. Maybe he can accelerate away from people. Assuming he can take the ball with him, then he's going to get behind fullbacks. Yeah. But can the man cross? Yeah. We don't know, do we?
No, I think you're looking at a number 9 who maybe drops in a little bit, so then he can make those runs. Almost, you
want him stretching the defense maybe on the last man the whole time?
I think of him as, we've talked about this a lot of times, what Jamie Vardy used to do for Leicester maybe he still does, but when Leicester were defending corners, how Jamie Vardy goes to like midfield at the end line, or touch line, excuse me. So he stands right in the corner, like right by the bench, and then the idea would be that if Kasper Schmeichel catches that ball, it's an immediate punt. Jamie Vardy's making that like lateral run across the field, and then he's in on goal. Yeah. That's what I would be expecting Johnny Slow to do.
Just to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Get you every time.
Vardy started basically on the touchline at midfield, right? And then does he sprint diagonally, or does he sprint laterally and then bend it?
I think laterally, and then as soon as the ball is released, then he makes a run towards goal.
All right, that would be a way to use Usain Bolt. One more thing for you. I think it's very obvious to like keep thinking of him as an attacker for some reason. What if because he's tall, he could play centre back? And he's got that elite pace to keep up with anyone. Assuming he could tackle and pass. Usain Bolt.
See, here's the thing. Again, I don't know Usain Bolt's level of ability, but I do know that it's more than... What is going on with you, Englishman? Like, defending is more than just jumping up and... Oh, well, no, actually, that is proper English. It's just more than, like, being big and knocking people off the ball and winning headers. You and I have played against big people who maybe aren't as good at tackling, and it leads to either you can get around them very easily, or it leads to lots of fouls. Exactly.
Well, I kind of liked it because if his name's Usain Bolt and he played in defence...
Usain Holt.
He could be maybe Usain Catenaccio.
You've been working on that the whole time, haven't you?
I've been working for like 10 seconds.
Okay. I was wondering why we were rapidly transitioning into defense.
Working with Alexis and Christian for a few weeks, I now realise that joke needs some workshopping before it went public.
Yeah. Puns always do, Daryl. Puns always do. Well, here's a great, actually, genuine thing. Here's a great way to workshop puns is think of the pun, write it down, throw it in the garbage.
Well, thank you to Billy, Matt, and Shay for today's questions. Really appreciated it. I really had fun on this show. Like a quick podcast in our room before we leave.
Ironing board 11 right here.
Ironing board 11. If you'd like to ask us a question, go to totalsoccershow.com/questions. You can fill out the form, and then it populates a spreadsheet, and then we pull it from there and we answer it on a show. If you support the show at $10 a month or more via totalsoccershow.com/join, we guarantee to answer one question per month. And if we haven't answered a $10 question, please just chase us up and let us know about it.
Thank you very much to everyone who sends in those questions. And we've had a lot of people on the road tell us that the listener questions episodes are like their favorite ones to listen to. And really, I always worried about that. Like, that's the view behind the curtain is I kind of worried that people didn't like listener questions because I think, in my mind, people like specific topics. And to know that people like the variety and they like the kind of back and forth. And
with things we wouldn't talk about, right? We wouldn't, for example, consider where Usain Bolt would play. We wouldn't consider which men's national team player to add to a women's national team. So it's rather than us getting stale, possibly, it's It's our listeners sort of dropping in with topics for us to talk about.
So I think really, I think we even talked about this, Daryl and I haven't. I would like to start doing at least one a week, if not two a week, like just shows dedicated to listener questions, because I think they give us a nice variety of topics. That said, I forget the podcast that ends with like, we know that other podcasts are available and we appreciate you listening.
We refuse to acknowledge other podcasts.
That's fair. But I just want to amend that to, we are aware that other national team players exist aside from Weston McKennie. We just like to talk about Weston McKennie.
It's Tyler Adams, right?
Yeah, that's it. And then Pulisic guy,
All right, Taylor, let's wrap it up. But we will be back next week, starting on Monday, with our Premier League preview. Please join us for our Premier League preview stuff, and please spread the word. Let the people know about the Total Soccer Show and Premier League previews.
And if there isn't a new episode on Monday, it means we've been stuck in Atlanta because of the rain, and Daryl is now dead.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that. That would not be a happy scenario. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me across an ironing board today.
I'm not breaking eye contact. Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We will talk to you again next week.